What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Moving with Life. It's me, Andy. Hopefully you all have had a good week. Just want to start off with, trying to get this technology thing zoned in, or zeroed in, I guess. Trying something new. So hopefully I can make that work, get it to work, and then slowly make just little incremental progress as the year continues. This is the last week of January already, which is crazy. Actually, let me start one more thing here. But yeah, it's already the last week of January, which is literally crazy. I feel like the holidays got here and it was fast on its own, and then the first got here, and now, 27th. I mean, I know I'm like, it's not, I guess to me, it even sounds like a little like, oh yeah, that like common sense stuff. But if you look at it, it's like, this month has passed by pretty fast. So here we are. We had, I guess, also it's been a very eventful week as well. Or not just week, but eventful month. So we got a new president. Chiefs and the Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. Dustin Poirier beat McGregor. I guess those are probably the main things. And so last week I didn't put out. I had thought about putting out an episode. I really wasn't sure yet because I had a plan as to what I wanted to do, but then I decided not to because come Wednesday, I just wanted to relax. Because even though I was on my little 7-day vacation, even up until that point, I feel like I had never just come down. I feel like it still never stopped. My brain just kept going, and so I said, you know what? I just won't record a podcast this week. I'll deliver next week upon returning. And even today, today's Wednesday, and today's my day off from work. So I was like, I wasn't feeling it, and I was like, "What am I going to talk about? What could I possibly talk about that would? I don't want to say, maybe I'm in still trying to get this stuff together and get everything situated. Trying to not be so macro or so deep in thought all the time. Just have a conversation, talk, think about what's going on in the world and my life at the same time." Maybe that's why I run out of content, or I feel like I run out of content. So I'm thinking too deep. I'm like, oh, I need this. I want it to be the best episode, but also I think this could also be a time where I kind of just let off the gas pedal a little bit. And so that's what today's episode is. It's just letting off the gas pedal a little bit. Talking about things that have happened, things that are going on, kind of realizing, oh yeah, we're having last week, I was on leave, and I got to see my family. I hadn't been home in 13 months. So that's another thing. And even saying that out loud, I was like, yeah, it's kind of crazy that it's been that long since I had been home last, but it is what it is. That is the reality of what 2021 brought, or 2020, sorry. That's the reality of what 2020 brought. And so because of that, it's like, yeah, it took 13 months for me to be able to go home again. And so when I got home initially, it was like, oh, fine. It felt like a very, very much felt like it's a finally moment. And then, once we got past I guess that little moment, then it's like, okay, cool. And then Monday, I obviously I was with my parents. My cousin, he's been on this podcast before. Brian, Freddie were there. We just had them on, for the past couple weeks on the podcast individually. But we're all we hung out, and it was nice. Made some barbecue. Just did that. It was very much a just reacclimation to the part of my life back home. And so that happened, and then I got to have some Whataburger multiple times, which was amazing. I mean, you it's like you can't have enough Whataburger, but you should have enough Whataburger. So, I had it a few times. But barbecue, had some Whataburger. Um, got to see awesome people, important people in my life, and then we had the inauguration. It was what, the 21st, which was like last. It was like, literally a week ago today or so, and that was interesting. It was interesting, and from my opinion, I'm not gonna state my political opinion, but it's just like, okay, it's the change is happening, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, whether, we think it's the best answer or the worst answer. Really, either which way you look at the spectrum. For me, it was like, okay, like, this is happening, and this is the event that is going on right now. And I watched the inauguration. I watched our president's speech, and it was like, okay, cool. This is where we are now. And so yeah, and then yeah, I'll leave it at that, because it, again, it is what it is. Some of the people that spoke or sang, it's like, okay, that's interesting. It feels kind of new. Didn't feel like there's been a inauguration like that. But to be frank, I actually don't even remember the last one, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that happened, and then I missed all the games, but I got to watch the fights on Saturday night. There were some good cards. I was so I didn't know until Saturday that it was Mike Chandler's first time in the UFC, because I had already heard the name. He's been on like Theo Von's podcast. He's been on several podcasts, and so I had heard his name through them, and then I saw him fight. He was the co-main event, and so I watched him, like, cool, and he won. And leading up to, because obviously Conor was I think it was. I don't know the numbers, and I'm not gonna look up right now, because it's not like that important to me. But Conor was the favorite. Conor is a favorite, because he has this style, he has this thing that about him that he just his persona. He has a very strong persona. So whenever it's fight time, it's like, okay, it's go time. He has this thing, and he intimidates through pushing people's buttons and tries to get them emotional, so that when it comes down to fight time, the fighter, his opponent, is now emotional, and maybe sometimes it's happening where they're too emotional, and so they can't perform to the best of their ability. Conor then comes out with a win. A year ago, when he fought last, I believe it was Cowboy Cerrone, and I was across the country at the time, and we got to watch it, and it was so crazy how fast it ended, and I was like, interesting, and it's done now. I was mildly disappointed. I didn't have to pay for it. It was already like done, because we had I think it was like the ESPN app or something. Someone had already been paying for the subscription, so that's how we watched it, and so we got to see the pay-per-view and whatnot. But so that was that, and then flash forward, a year, to this past weekend, and it was like, I wonder what the approach, because even if you, I was talking about this with my friends and stuff. We were talking just generally about the fights, like, even the press conferences, everything. Usually Conor's like just talking shit all the time. He's very animated. He's very outspoken. Yeah, probably. But then you saw him this go around of like public speaking and whatnot. It's like, he's like shaking Dustin Poirier's hand. He's like there, face, like right in his face, but then it's just for the picture, and then he lets go, and so that was very interesting. And it's like, okay, so then we get into Saturday, into the fight, and Mike Chandler. So just knowing the general situation, it was like, okay, Mike Chandler fought, he then won, and at that moment, for me personally, I was like, oh, Dustin Poirier needs to win. America needs to win tonight. That's the way I felt, because I think he was playing or fighting someone from Chandler was fighting someone from England. Was it Hooker or whatever his name is? I got his name wrong earlier. Now my buddy corrected me, like, I don't remember his name. It doesn't matter. I just know he's not from here. And then you have Dustin Poirier fighting Conor, which obviously, again, Conor's a favorite. But I was like, oh, Dustin, he's from Louisiana. It's like, come on, America, like let's bring both, let's bring the whole main event, for a win. And then you get into the first round, and you start seeing those shoulder shots, and it's like, oh man. Because my thing was still for sure was that, okay, if Dustin can make it through the first round, because last year McGregor came out blazing, in the first round. That's why he won like the first 40 seconds or something like that. It was under a minute or whatever, and it was like, man, okay, if he can make it through those initial like little beatings, maybe there's a chance. I hadn't paid attention any previous time that Dustin Poirier had fought because I didn't know who he was really. It wasn't until this past year really where I started seeing on podcasts. I started hearing him talk. I was like, man, this guy's really cool. He's also doing like all this charity stuff, especially because of just the coronavirus and everything. So he's doing these charity events. He's like, man, he seems like a really cool person. It's like, okay, what can we or how does he fight? I had never paid attention. I looked up. I think the initial fight that happened in 2014 with Conor McGregor and Poirier, and where McGregor won. But I was like, oh, okay, like, interesting, yeah. But McGregor's attitude was totally different in that fight. Excuse me. Than this past weekend. So they go and Poirier gets that takedown, but then they end up back in the feet. It's like, okay, it seems like it doesn't seem like Poirier will be able to keep him on the ground, keep McGregor on the ground. So like, okay, let's see if again Poirier can make it through the first round, and then like second round, like, man, what's gonna happen? In those middle rounds, for me personally, it's always like a hit or miss, because you get that shot, then you'll be able to finish. But then sometimes you see where these fights, they're gonna go all 5 rounds, period, 5 rounds, 5 minutes each. They're gonna go all the way to the end. So then you get to the second round, and actually I don't even remember how exactly the second round started, but I know it wasn't long before I just remember where Poirier got that initial lock, and you see Conor McGregor's eyes just kind of open up, and also Poirier was working on that leg over and over, in the first round, and then for sure just continued in the second round. And I was like, well, maybe he'll go for the takedown again, but then he got that one good shot, and then from there, I was like, is it over? Because even when Poirier was like laying in all these punches, I was like, man, but McGregor never went down, and I feel like is Poirier going to try to capitalize on this and then let it be done, or is McGregor going to move away from the fence, from the fence or off the wall and come off and kind of reset himself? And apparently, he wasn't able to recover from those initial combinations, and then obviously it was at some point McGregor's. My assumption is that the combinations that Poirier was doing towards the middle of that pain, in his brain, started triggering. Oh, like this actually hurts more than my legs, so his legs gave out because his legs actually couldn't hold him up anymore. And then, that's where I think it was Herb Dean that was the caller. If I'm getting all this wrong, just forgive me. The point is, like, the referee was there, and he let it go obviously so far. I thought he was gonna call at a certain point, let it go, like maybe 3 or 4 more punches, and then he called the fight, and that was it. And Poirier went out, and I was so happy. I was like, oh, that was like probably one of the most relieving moments of my Saturday, just watching Mike Chandler win for America, and then Dustin Poirier win for America too. So that was that. So and really that Saturday night, I had my friend, my cousin, a couple friends, and my cousin. They were at my Airbnb that I had, and so really those fights kind of ended my vacation, because I flew out Sunday, around noonish, and then went straight back to work on Monday. And even my friend, she was like, oh, when do you go back to work? And I was like, Monday. Like, I didn't have enough time to let's just say cruise on back this way, take a day off, kind of readjust, reacclimate, and then go back to work. It was like, no, like, I got out of work. I then, I flew home, was there for my 6 full days. And then I flew home, that's a half day of travel, and then work, at 06 in the morning. And that was that. But yeah, that was that. And even then, I in getting back and going back to work Monday and Tuesday, and then trying to do this today. I was walking to the mailbox earlier today, and I was like, man, even though it felt very fast, and yes, I could have probably, I could have afforded a few more days, but then, if you afford too many days, then you actually don't even want to go back to work. And it's like, it's a hard balance all around. And it's like, okay, how hard do I want to play the balance? It's like I need to get back into shape. There's so many things that I want to do as well. Like, stock market's going crazy, especially like today, Wednesday, the hedge fund thing with GameStop, and all these things that are going on in the stock market. And then the stocks in general just never stop going down. It's blowing my mind, literally. Just how rampant, they're going up. It's just going up and up and up. And it's like, what's going on? And because of that, I'll probably have Freddie on again just so we can have just a general conversation, but then we'll probably tie in stock somehow, because it's like, it's just crazy, really how the month is ending, in the stock market. So there's, where was I going with this? Vacation. When I was walking to the mailbox, and I was like, man, I was walking and it was sunny, and so I went for a run this morning. I bought some new Brooks, so I'm breaking those in, trying my best to, anyways. So I did that. And then at some point after, I was talking to my buddies, and then that ended, and then I went to the mailbox to see if I got any mail, and it was like, this feels good. And I was like, was it because I went home? Like, even though the home front, it felt mildly rushed. I never adjusted to the time zone. I never felt like it ever stopped. Like, time literally never stopped the whole 6 days that I was home. And even then, I'd sleep for 4 or 5 hours, and then I'd get up and, I'd go to my parents' house, and we'd be there for breakfast, and then we'd have some lunch or whatever they had planned. But then Monday and Tuesday felt right. And then by Wednesday, it's like, okay, I'm just going to have some downtime with, me and my cousin. We're just there, having dinners and whatnot. But even then, it was like, but time literally, I know it never stops, but like, even physically feeling that, it never stopped. But then upon getting here, and then again going back to my mailbox today, it was like, maybe, even though it felt like that, maybe going home was still the right thing. It was still the right answer. Because being gone for so long, it's like, wow, I was in a rush to get home, and I wanted to get home. I just needed a break from here. And so then now that that little episode, that event of vacation is over, it's like, how do I really feel? And then, today I got to sleep in a little bit, no alarm, went for my run, had some conversation, and then really had a moment to kind of sit down, back here at my place, and really, I guess, think again, really, because again, I got home, my flight got in at night, and it was literally straight to sleep, because then I had work in the morning. So then I was like, man, maybe it was good, because that maybe the fact that I wanted to be off a couple more days and not getting that, it was like, was it even worth it? Was it even worth the whole, not the trouble, was it worth the time? And then in the end, it's like, yeah, I guess it was, because even going to work, it's like, oh, this feels right, but I know I went home. I know I still had this full recalibration that, there's a very delayed response, I feel like, for myself. But even with that delayed response, now, we're already Wednesday, at the middle of the week. So it's like, this might have been good. So it's like, cool. I think we can work with that. So yeah, so next thing, I work this weekend, so I'm gonna have myself, and really, as far as work goes, I'm gonna have those stories, and I just can't talk about them right now, but I know I will at some point, in the future, and it has nothing even to do with like, so I guess I can't talk. I'm not gonna talk about it much, but it's like, I know I have stories that I'll be able to tell about, the friends that I'm creating, and that's part of the cool thing too, is like, these people that I'm meeting and the people that I'm also helping, it's like, man, like, there's something about it that it feels right. It feels good. And I'll say, and it's not that like motivational, like, oh, like gung ho, like good. It's just like, this feels right. Like I at the very least, I should be learning something. And I know I had a little meeting with one of my mentors back home, which I'll be able to mention because I actually have a podcast episode recorded with him, but I just don't want to release it yet. Because that's like it's very like near and dear to me, so it's like okay, I'm gonna hold off on that releasing that recording, but I will eventually. But I was having a conversation with him. It's like, and you know we just talked again. I hadn't been home for 13 months, so we're just kind of catching up, and it's like okay. So then we got to a certain point where I was like, you know, even with because I don't have any previous medicine, like specific actual medicine like background. The most I got as far as medicine goes was just dietary stuff and getting in shape and working, learning how to like be physically in shape, yes, but being very physically efficient. And so it got to a point in the conversation where it's like, even, I'm so glad I have the docs and nurses that I work with because I feel like they do help me want to bring the best of me to the floor at all, every single time, every single shift I have. I don't mind asking questions. There's some of these like little things like asking questions and, being knowledgeable in whatever's being presented to me to be able to make the right decision to then present, then forward that to the nurse, right. Or the docs. But it still got down to the bottom line of like, like I just try to bring my best. I try to bring my A game. And even if, cause it seems like to others, it's some of the things we do is kind of redundant in certain aspects. But for me, it's like this is what's required of this part of the job. And a lot of it has to do with, age and maturity and going through different things in life. And some of these coworkers that I have, they just haven't experienced yet, and they will. And my thing that I try to bring to their table is like, hey, like whatever you decide to do next, good, as long as you have a plan, as long as you are okay with the decision that you're making. So and being okay with it, making that decision, sticking with it, and then seeing it through. Because even I'm still trying to do that. Or at least I feel like I'm trying to. That's the best way I can put it. Like I'm trying to make the best decision with the information that I have, and then execute. Do it. And I'm certain I've talked about it, several times as far as like just making a decision and executing. I believe I talked about it going into the new year too. It's like, making that decision, being okay with hope, all those little things that kind of add up even to now. But this reiteration is still, I'm still wanting to mention it because it's still very prevalent. It's very much a thing. And now to move on to like the vaccine and all these things that are happening, it's like, okay, cool. These things are moving, these things are being done. So hopefully, this vaccine works, and whatever the new normal is going to be, cool. That's good too. But the main thing is also my concern. I guess my main concern of the whole thing is like, just people's health, because it affects everybody differently, and the sickness itself, and then the isolation as well. Being isolated from people, not being able to go home. Then the people that are home and then they realize maybe they don't want to be home, or whatever the situation may be, along those lines. But yeah, that's there's just all these little things, and I guess in talking about like the bigger macro things that I've the fights and being home, and that those help me then narrow down my conversation for this podcast to bring, and it's like something. I always say I can't help but get into a deep conversation. I'm really not one for small talk, and it seems like even when I if I were to try to break the ice at the table or whatever the situation be, I still resort to the not the deeper meaning of life, but just what what this actually is, and what we can actually do with our lives, and try and make decisions to steer us in a direction that we actually are not comfortable isn't the right word, but that, hey, yes, this is what I want to do, whether it's medical, law, you want to do a podcast, you want to do, you want to be a professional vlogger. I feel like that stuff, that is a thing now, all these professional YouTubers really, and even these comedians that I watch now, it's like, not being able to go on the road because they would do, their comedy specials and whatnot, just everywhere and anywhere. They're another big part of the entertainment industry that they were heavily affected. But now, they all have podcasts, and if they don't have one, they have like three. Like Tom Segura, him and his wife have a podcast. Then he's with Bert Kreischer. Then he has his own, and then he has the list of podcasts under his little. I guess it's a production company that they have where him and his wife kind of basically started. Now they have who else do they have? They have Dr. Drew, Ryan. I think it's Ryan Sickler. So they have other people's podcasts under theirs alone, and so that's pretty cool. That's good. It is what it, I hate that phrase. I really don't like that phrase because it is what it is, but it's not. It could be said better. I'm still trying because even being home last week, I was having a conversation with one of my family members, and at the end they were like, "Well, it is what it is." I'm like, "You're right, but there's a better optimistic way of saying that, and I just don't know what it is yet." So yeah, yep, that's what I got. I guess the last little tangent, and it's not really a tangent because it's probably gonna be very quick. But Super Bowl's in 2 weeks. I'm actually gonna be off for the Super Bowl, which I'm actually kind of excited about. I'm not gonna do a live thing, but I am planning on watching it, and then depending on if I have plans that are made to go watch it with friends or anything, then okay, maybe I won't podcast on it. But if I don't do that, then I'll probably podcast. But given the Bucks, given the Chiefs, the fact that Tom Brady has proved how good he is because he left the New England Patriots. This is his 10th Super Bowl, which is nuts. I didn't even know that. I was watching a podcast and they were mentioning it, and I was like, oh, that's already a big deal as it is. So I think I'm gonna take Tampa Bay and the Bucks and Tom Brady just because of the way they have conducted themselves, and obviously Tom Brady carried the Patriots so much. And yes, we know that. Yes, we know how good Tom Brady is, but it's I don't think I'll have to argue that we don't realize how big and how good Tom Brady is, because if you see the Patriots record this year compared to the Buccaneers record and where they're at now in January 27th leading into the Super Bowl on February 8th or whatever day it is, 7th or 8th, I think the proof is in the winning, and we're again in Tom Brady being there once again, and not with Coach Belichick and the Patriots. So I think I'm gonna have to choose the Bucks. I wanted the Bills. I didn't watch any of the finals, any of the divisional games on Sunday. I watched a piece of the Packers and the Bucks, and Aaron Rodgers, to me, he blew it. So I was like, oh, whatever. He didn't deserve to be at the Super Bowl this year because at the fourth quarter they had two interceptions and they still didn't do anything with it. So it was like, nah, it's gonna be the Buccaneers, and so the Mahomes game against the Bills. I was rooting for the Bills to go to the Super Bowl. I think a lot of people were kind of they were rooting for them. I think the Bills are due, but at least they made it this far. But now now that those games are over, and so for Super Bowl I have the Buccaneers winning. I know a bunch of people are gonna be not live streaming it, but they're gonna be podcasting while. They'll be live streaming their podcast while watching the game. And like I said, I probably won't do a live podcast, but I will do something Super Bowl related. And then with that, especially leading into March, I have some ideas that I'm going to see if I can help happen and make happen with a podcast. And it has to do with, sports. And I still need to figure out the YouTube thing for the Music Never Stops because of the copyright thing. And it's I'm not using it for copyright. Damn it kind of pisses me off because these companies it's obviously they want every single penny that they can get their hands on because they're so broke, and so I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know how I'm gonna go about that, but once I get through that little hurdle, then I can. I'm gonna keep posting about it. It's more of a logistical thing that I need to figure out to be able to monetize on YouTube. And then not that I'm like prioritizing that, but it's like I'm using this for entertainment. I'm using this for conversation's sake. I'm not using this for I'm not claiming that it's mine, or I'm not saying that it's my music or my project. So that's my thing. Is like I'm not using it for that. But and even then, I have come to the conclusion, or a part of the conclusion where it's like, well, I also care about the music. I also care about the ideas. So I might just like just not worry about it and just record it, do what I got to do, and then just leave it be as far as copyright and all that stuff. But yeah, so hopefully I have a good week. Will look into recording the Music Never Stops episode tomorrow, to have that up for Friday, and then we'll see what the weekend brings. I work now that football is pretty much. I mean, there's a Pro Bowl, but I've never really cared about the Pro Bowl. Funny story about the Pro Bowl. Actually, I'll write it down. I'll save it for later. Hold on. So I don't know what other sporting events are coming up this week. February fight card for the UFC looks pretty tight, so I might do something with that as well. Anyways, that's all I got for now. I'm gonna sign off. Today I was trying to keep it to 30 minutes. I feel like, okay, if I can reach 30 minutes of like stuff that I feel is relevant or stuff that I actually want to talk about, then I think I'll stop there. And I think I've reached that. So I'm gonna stop there. Hopefully y'all have a good weekend. Have a good week. Everything as far as communicating with me, everything in the show notes. Email, Instagram, it's all in the show notes. I'm on pretty often. As far as replying, if you have an idea or a thought, I will reply appropriately, and then go from there. So I am out, and I'll see you all very soon.